Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we've gathered here for the match of the century. First, in this corner, the blue blur himself, Sonic the Superstar Hedgehog! And in this corner, the plumber from down under, Mario the Wonder Plumber! So without further ado, let's get ready to rumble now! Forget Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Heck, even forget Barbenheimer. This is the big event of counter-programming of the year, with both Sonic Superstars and Super Mario Bros. Wonder both coming out within a few days of each other, with Sonic Superstars coming out on October 17th and Super Mario Bros. Wonder coming out on October 20th. So this provides an opportunity for you to kind of empty out your bank account with two potentially great games. Both games pull from their roots in terms of the gameplay and the traditional 2D look, but kind of bring it into a modern day with new updates, modern controls, and gameplay, and that 3D landscape. I'll go over my initial impressions and reaction to Sonic Superstars, having pre-ordered the game and played about an hour of the game itself. This is by no means a review, but again, just initial reaction. Pre-ordering the game gives you a digital art book and digital soundtrack that you can open up and be able to kind of explore the art book. It has plenty of different sprites and different designs for each of the characters that you can play as. And spoilers, before you go further, it does show you all the playable characters that are in the game. So with that, the next page is the character of Trip, who is a new character introduced in this game. Besides the introduction of this new character of Trip the Sun Gazer, there are also reintroductions of older villains like Fang the Hunter. Now, the art book also shows the mechanized forms of our main playable heroes, and these are skins that can be played in the new battle mode. So some pretty interesting art in the art book. It's mostly kind of throwaway art, so to speak, that you would find in like a strategy guide typically. There's plenty of kind of like outlays to the levels, artwork for each of the zones, different kind of characters for the animals that you've turned from being badniks back to their non-roboticized forms. And so the art book is pretty neat. There's plenty of pages to look through, albeit this is kind of a little fun distraction that you might want to flip through for a couple minutes before turning into the next part of this kind of pre-order bonus. And that is going to be the actual soundtrack. Now, herein lies a major disappointment with the pre-order, that the soundtrack is not a full soundtrack to the game, but rather just a small piece of it. It's not even half of the soundtrack, it's not even a quarter of the soundtrack, it's just about 10 songs that are included in this portion of the pre-order bonus. Even more disappointing is the music itself, with nothing really memorable, so to speak, within these 10 tracks. Now, of course, you can get the soundtrack more fully fleshed out on YouTube, but that's why I pre-ordered the game, was to be able to get the full soundtrack and be able to play in the background while I was doing other things. This honestly should have been a free pack-in with the main game as opposed to being some type of pre-order bonus or DLC, but Sega has a habit of kind of breaking out pieces of the main game and giving them off as DLC or separate purchasable options. But this is something that you might want to pass on and just go straight to the main game. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog series producer Takashi Asuka intended for this game to be a spiritual successor and sequel to the original Sega Genesis games, and it feels like just that, with segments that harken back to the original Sonic CD kind of animated cinematic, and this is something continued from the Sonic Origins and Sonic Mania segments, and it fits in just right here. Now, there's a variety of short segments throughout the game for animations, including the opening, along with some of the endings and short segments throughout. These are some of my favorite parts of some of these classic Sonic games, or those games that are trying to emulate the classic look of Sonic, trying to give that kind of Japanese anime look to these classic characters. Now, through the digital deluxe version of the game, you get Lego versions of skins of the main playable characters that you can use in the main story mode. And there's also plenty of additions in the battle mode, with being able to play as the Mecha or Robo Sonic within the battle mode. And once again, that's part of the digital deluxe and probably going to be DLC later on. So besides the main story mode in terms of the different skins that are available through the digital deluxe version, you've also got plenty of wallpapers that you can change out the background for your title or main menu screen. Also, there's additional levels or battle areas for your battle mode, also included in your digital deluxe version. So Sonic Team tries to answer the age-old question: what's the meaning of life? What came first, the chicken or the egg? How is Applebee's still in business? And with this final question, how do you make a 2D Sonic modernized in a 3D game world? And essentially the answer is you throw everything but the kitchen sink in there and see what happens. And with the battle mode, it seems like this is a complete dropping of the ball. This battle mode is a complete miss. While there's some interesting things in terms of kind of throwing in badniks to kind of battle each other in a series of minigames, none of these minigames are any good, and this really does feel like an afterthought. None of these minigames would even stand up against any of the minigames that you'd find in a Mario Party game, and it just really is kind of something that's tacked on. It's kind of neat to kind of go through the shop and buy different bits and pieces of your mechanized badnik to do battle both either online or through local play, but there's really nothing here that will really pass your interest for more than a couple seconds, and it'll just be easily forgotten. There are 3 separate options for your multiplayer battle mode that includes Star Snatcher, Survival, and Zap Scrap. Medals can be used to purchase upgrades, and those medals are acquired in the main story mode. But again, this mode is a miss for me, and definitely points go to Mario over Sonic in terms of really kind of gaining that advantage right now on this initial impression. There is a time trial mode that continues to unlock additional levels for you to go back and test your time. But again, this is not something that you'll spend much time on unless you are a completionist. So heading on over to the story mode, there are plenty of options in terms of characters to choose from. Sonic, of course, as we know, plays exactly how you'd expect him. Tails has his flying ability, which is more of like a hover. Knuckles has a hovering ability as well, but he can attach to walls and be able to climb. And surprisingly, Amy's my favorite in terms of having that double jump to her that really gives her an advantage if you're looking to gain your height and be able to kind of jump up to platforms that you'd otherwise miss. Now, while I'm playing the main campaign, I do want to point out that there's more than one campaign that unlocks after beating the game. I have yet to unlock that second campaign, but of course that continues with the unlocking of Trip. The levels have charm. None of the original zones from the previous games come back here, but essentially what is here is a mishmash of all your favorite zones from the previous games, in addition to Sonic Mania, kind of just spiritual successors of those zones. In terms of the new additions to gameplay, there are the Chaos Emeralds that now give you powers, and while a good portion of the game you don't need to rely on them, they do give you an advantage, especially with certain characters that may not have those abilities. And once again, from my standpoint, I do feel that characters like Amy or Knuckles definitely have natural abilities over Sonic, whereas Sonic definitely needs those Chaos Emerald powers to get across a large majority of the game. Now, in terms of the other additions, there are plenty of little special stages and subzones within each level that give you the ability to collect medals that are the in-game currency. You can also use these zones to collect additional rings, but I didn't really enjoy any of them. Brings back those grappling abilities that you had in Sonic Forces, which is a gameplay element I never liked in the first place. And really, in terms of some of the new additions to the levels, while they add plenty of charm and they really kind of are a bit of a mix-up to the standard gameplay, I was about to chalk this entire game to being like pretty much a an okay kind of a sub-level experience for this Sonic fan. But then something changed when I actually started to have my family join in on the fun as Tails or some of the co-op. So the game really shines with having co-op in terms of having 2 to 4 players join in on the fun. It's hectic, it's crazy, and it's especially goofy. So there is no rhyme or reason, and that's a negative to how the camera focuses on the kind of prime focus of the of which character the camera is actually following. It doesn't necessarily follow any logic. It doesn't follow the first player. It doesn't necessarily follow who's ever kind of and forward in motion on the screen. It just kind of chooses whatever at any random point, and it'll switch constantly. So there's a goofiness to it, but there's also a charm in terms of really kind of just creating chaos amongst the gameplay. And for anyone that has never played Sonic before or is just not really into video games overall, to have some of your family members join in on this crazy level of fun, it just really kind of brings out the character of this game. This is probably the major shining point of this, which otherwise would have been kind of, as I said, a lower point than not matching the highs of Sonic Frontiers or the nostalgic charm of Sonic Mania. The co-op is really where this game shines, at least for me. So if you're looking for a game that, while there is some fun to be had in the single player, there is a level of what I would call a little bit of slowness to the gameplay that you're not going to hit those max speeds of the previous games, but it's not, so to speak, an eyesore. I still got plenty of a sensation of speed from it, but the single player is not going to be that engagement, that level of excitement, that wow factor that Sonic Mania had or even Sonic Frontiers has. It's going to be just okay. You really have to have another player playing with you, a family member, a friend, playing in co-op, and just being able to rush through the game and just have this chaotic fun and know that's going to be goofy. So with that, guys, even on this initial kind of impressions of the game, I'm having fun with it, but I'm having a lot more fun with it with family. Definitely want to do some further dive into this game with another player, another 2 to 3 players at a minimum, to really get the most out of that. So with that, guys, that really does it for me. First couple points go to Sonic. So we'll see how Super Mario Brothers Wonder kind of comes out in the next couple days and see how that does in the competition. That does for me, guys. Like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.